Hi, Victoria. How are you?
Hi, well, thank you. How are you?
Good, good. Nice seeing you. I opened the room before because it will be the first time for Vasco to use Clubhouse, so he wanted to come a little bit earlier, so like 10 minutes earlier. So
And we can do.
hi, Nerd. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was going to
Sorry.
say, and we can do that. It's great to be able to accommodate when possible, to say yes.
Yeah, I agree. So it will be exciting. The talk. I'm really interested in this. And he's from Lisbon. Like, he's in
I was
Lisbon.
going to ask you because it sounded like you said Bashko and not Basco.
Yeah, exactly. I know in Spanish you say it more B. Interestingly, when you were in the north of Portugal, where I'm from, people tend to say the V a little bit more B too, but it's considered as a, like a not very nice sounding language type of Portuguese, the
Yeah,
north
and
one.
also the S,
Yeah,
soft S. It's
exactly.
also special.
Yeah, in Porto, it's more like the rough Portugal. Like it used to be industrial and rough, and people speak more like bad words, and it's very different in Lisbon. You go to Lisbon, it's very different how people speak. It's very funny, actually.
Okay, well, I look forward to learning firsthand. Especially the rough language.
Yeah, it's really rough.
We let our hair down.
In the morning, when people are not from Porto and the people from the market, especially the women from the market, are in the early buses. They talk very rough and like, yeah, everyone is kind of afraid of them. It's very funny. And people are very puzzled when they're not from Porto. They like, uh, yeah, they don't put anything, no filter. They comment on every guy that passes by. It's like you imagine like rough men, like that's how they are. Just it's very funny.
Well, it's interesting with no filter because I was just writing and I was writing about the ocean and what if we could see through the water? You know, like what if people could see the ocean without the water and see everything that was in there? Would the ocean be treated any better, any differently? So then I was putting that toward people too. You know, if we could see what we were all carrying or what we'd all experienced. So these women, they're speaking outdoors as they might speak indoors, as you said, no filter.
Hi Nerdish, how are you? Nice to see you.
Hello, thank you for having me. I was just curious, when are we gonna start the talk? Sorry.
Wait a minute. Okay. Well,
On the top of the
our
hour, we
guest
opened
needs
up
to
the room.
arrive. So neither of us are Bashko Guerra. So it's his talk.
All right, great, thank you.
This is what's known as idle chit chat before the guest arrives.
I've never been early, so
It's a treat.
Yeah, we share knowledge no one needs before the talk. That to make a nice comparison to what's interesting, what's not.
Otherwise, we'll just start talking about food, and so.
Right. Well, it's also a very good topic. No, we'll start soon. A guest speaker who has never on Clubhouse before, so we open up the room a little bit before so he can figure out how to come on here. And yeah, if you think this is an interesting topic, maybe share the room, and we will start soon. So I'm really looking for it. In the meantime, please check out the paper. It should be open source. Please tell me if it's not. I sometimes... Yeah, no, it's open source. I see the open block. So
Let it out. Let it out. Say how you feel.
I don't know. She started barking recently. It's very funny. In the beginning, she was never barking, the puppy, but now she barks.
It's really adorable. In installments, I'm sure.
Yeah, she doesn't bark too much. So that's good.
It's her voice, though. You know, I think about that sometimes with dogs, and we can become so annoyed with hearing their barking. But how would that feel, to be treated like that? Like, shh, hush, no barking, no speaking.
Yeah. Namano, that's a good one.
Yeah, I'm glad I have a dog.
Yeah, I agree. She just stops also. Like, she usually just barks. She's like really asleep, and you go into the room she is, and she doesn't realize right away what's going on. Then she like
Do you
barks.
see
Usually,
Naman is
or it's
barking?
play.
Do you see?
Oh yeah.
Trying to be heard, trying so hard. I like the pink bow especially.
Yeah, and yeah, or if she really wants to play or to do something, then she barks. But that's fine. Okay. I'm
Hello,
so sorry.
welcome back.
I guess.
I was thinking, okay, that was fun.
Yeah, that
Now
was
let's
it.
begin our
That
discussion.
was it. Please read the paper. Good luck.
Lots of funding. So mushrooms are looking really nice this fall. They're off to a good start here.
Yeah, it rained a lot, right, this fall? I guess. I don't know how it is.
Actually, we've got fires and we need some rain. It's supposed to rain next weekend. There's fire about an hour and a half south, and now I see one about an hour and a half to the north as well.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, just somehow the mushrooms are emerging, and they're beautiful.
Well, it's a good sign, right? It's a healthy sign of the ground. I don't know. Yeah, we should invite back our guest speaker about the microbiome of, after fire.
Yes. I thought you were going to say the guest speaker who was talking about behavior of dogs in response to people, because I saw what Nerdish wrote, and yeah, what would that be like? Maybe dogs are telling us to shut up. Maybe that is what they're saying. But yes, the microbiome after fire.
Oh yeah, I would bark all the time. To be honest.
I would, yeah. I don't know if I would I wouldn't stick my head out of a car and let my tongue and ears. Never mind.
Oh, that one, yeah, that one probably not. Too many bugs that. Well, this. Did you realize that the when you drive with the car back in time, you used to have like, I don't know, the windshield full of bugs, like completely full, no? But now when you drive long distances, it's almost clean. Like there's not too many bugs anymore. Don't you?
Oh, and it's, wow. And it's not because I was thinking it, maybe it's because of aerodynamic design. Hey, Nerdish.
Yeah, didn't. That's a good point. I have not realized that, but you just made that May aware of it. That that is very surprising.
I'm seeing more butterflies though, where I'm on the West Coast. But, yeah, gnats and large squished things. Wow. Really, Katarina, I thought you were going to say, a really positive reason, but not a reason that had to do with diminishing populations.
Yeah, I mean there is, and also yeah, there is, and also light pollution and so on messes up their like rhythm and stuff. But there's less wetlands. We dried them all out, and yeah, and less like land, like just wildflowers and stuff, where they can just hang out and have their life. But yeah, it's a huge difference. I know that when we used to drive through Europe, it was like you couldn't see anything. You would have to stop at gas stations every time and clean the windshield. But that's not the case anymore. Yeah, our guest speaker should be there anytime. He wrote me that he would join earlier. To
Is there a time confusion, perhaps, with the guest speaker?
no, he said exactly the right time, and he would be there. Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, it's just
I don't have his phone number.
translate.
I wrote him an email saying that we started, so I hope he made an account because he was part of the list. So he made an account beforehand, and he said he will be there 15 minutes earlier.
So he's not in Twitter Spaces.
No, I sent him the link for Clubhouse, and he made a Clubhouse account,
Thank
and
you, Armish.
he is part of the speaker list. But maybe he's having issues. Maybe a lot of guest speakers, since they are used to give talks on Zoom, they try to do it on the desktop, and then it's kind of the desktop app is really not very intuitive. Yeah. So in the meantime, should we talk a little bit in general about the topic, maybe?
I was just Googling it. Yeah, I just found a plasma reactor could help astronauts breathe on Mars, and blasting CO2 molecules inside a plasma reactor. I could send that.
Yeah, so he won a few prizes for his research. Maybe I can start with that because it's not really, he doesn't have to be
Yes,
here
that's a
for
great
that.
idea. We can welcome him in absentia in the hopes
Exactly.
that it will conjure his presence. Please
Yeah,
help us manifest our speaker. We
exactly.
call on our listeners. Thank you.
Yeah, so Vasco Guerre, he's part of the Department of Physics and the Institute of Plasma and Fusion, like nuclear fusion, and the Superior Institute in Lisbon. And he, for the ongoing, when he was doing this research, he won the prestigious William Crookes Prize for his research, and he is so the prize was for his outstanding contribution to the modeling of molecular low temperature plasmas. I can share his link shortly to his to the website where shortly is described. He so this low temperature plasma, such as the self-consistent kinetic modeling of N2O2 and other plasmas under discharge and post-discharge conditions, including the strong coupling between electron and vibrational kinetics, together with chemical and ion kinetics. He is also a senior member of the Gas Discharges and Gaseous Electronics Group in the Institute of the Nuclear Fusion and Plasmas, and he's associate professor of the physics department. He gave, I can share this link with you, where he gave a talk about his research, and here in the chat I will post the link of the website that I just shared right now about this prize. He said on this website, which is quite funny, that he's didn't get a PhD in biology. Apparently, he's asked a lot of times if he did. So, he's a physics professor. Please check out. So, the European Space Agency supported the project. This specific project, the ISRU on Mars, plasma conversion of CO2 from the Martian atmosphere, was awarded. ISRU stands for In Situ Resource Utilization, and that is the harvesting of resources on the exploration site that would have to be brought from Earth otherwise. So this is the program that supported this research. Where basically you have to solve problems where we need to bring the least with us, and you can use resources that you find on Mars to survive and to grow plants, to breathe air, and so on and so forth. So he won one of those awards and did this research that was published, and you see the link that's on top. So what this work is about is that he's discussing how you could combine non-thermal plasmas and conducting membranes for in situ resource utilization on Mars. And they are doing this by converting different molecules directly from the Martian atmosphere plasmas and create the necessary feedstock and base chemicals for processing fuels, breathing oxygen, building materials, and fertilizers. These different plasma sources operate accordingly to different principles, and they are associated with distinct dominant psychochemical mechanisms. Using this diversity allows exploring different energy transfer pathways leading to CO2 dissociation, including direct electron impact processes, plasma chemistry mediated by vibrationally and electronically excited states, and thermally driven dissociation. The coupling of plasmas with membranes is still a technology under development, but the synergistic effect between plasma decomposition and oxygen permeation across conducting membranes is anticipated. This emerging technology is versatile, scalable, and has the potential to deliver high rates of production of molecules per kilogram of instrumentation center space. Therefore, it will likely play a very relevant role in future ISRU strategies. So, yeah. So the purpose is that space flight programs are expanding in all kinds of countries, and humans will try to colonize space and become multi-planetary species, and to open up the solar system for human exploration and colonization. There will be several space missions targeted to the moon and the Mars, and the goals. A landmark is NASA's Artemis 3 missions, which foresees landing humans on the surface of the moon in 2024, and the first astronauts to walk on the moon in over 50 years. And with the sustained presence on the moon, we will use that knowledge to acquire on and around the moon to take next giant leap, sending the first astronauts to Mars. Let me see in the meantime if I get a response from our guest speaker here.
Hey, Joyce and Katarina, I found a sweet article. I mean, it's sort of maybe redundant because of what you've shared, but it's a short article from Science, August 2022, about this project. If you'd like me to share it or read it.
Yeah, go ahead and share. Thank you.
Yeah. And Joyce, did you want to say something before I do? Okay. So here's an article titled "Plasma Reactors Could Create Oxygen on Mars," and subtitled is "Exciting Approach Splits Atmospheric Carbon Dioxide but Still Has Kinks to Work Out." So hopefully we'll get to hear about those kinks. Last year, NASA achieved something science fiction writers have been dreaming about for decades. It created oxygen on Mars. A microwave-sized device attached to the agency's Perseverance rover converted carbon dioxide into 10 minutes of breathable oxygen. Now, physicists say they've come up with a way to use electron beams in a plasma reactor to create far more oxygen, potentially in a smaller package. The technique might someday not just help astronauts breathe on the red planet, but could also serve as a way to create fuel and fertilizer, says Michael Hecht, an experimental scientist at Massachusetts Institute of Technology. But Hecht, who leads the oxygen-making rover instrument, says the new approach still has a number of challenges to overcome before it can hitch a ride to our solar neighbor. When Perseverance landed in Jezero Crater in 2020, it carried the Oxygen In Situ Resource Utilization Experiment, aka MOXIE, and the device draws in Martian air, which is 95% CO2. By pumping a current between two oppositely charged electrodes in an electrochemical cell, MOXIE can split the CO2 into carbon monoxide and oxygen ions. The oxygen ions then combine with each other to produce oxygen gas. The experiment has been a successful proof of concept, but to work, MOXIE needs to pressurize and heat Martian air, requiring extra parts that consume energy and make it bulky. Vasco Guerra, a physicist at University of Lisbon, thought a plasma reactor might be a better approach. A beam of electrons, accelerated to a specific energy level, can split carbon dioxide into its component ions or plasma, just like MOXIE. Moreover, a plasma reactor would be well suited to the Martian atmosphere, which is about 100 times thinner than Earth's. Creating and accelerating a beam of electrons in the thin air is much easier, Guerra says. There's an ideal pressure for plasma operation, he says. Mars has precisely this correct pressure. In the lab, he and his colleagues pumped air designed to match the pressure and composition of Mars into thin metal tubes. Unlike MOXIE, they didn't need to compress or heat the air, yet by firing an electron beam into the reaction chamber, they were able to convert about 30% of the air into oxygen. They estimate that the device could create about 14 grams of oxygen per hour, which is enough to support 28 minutes of breathing, the team reports today in the Journal of Applied Physics. Guerra's team still needs to solve some practical problems, Hecht notes. To work on Mars, the plasma device would need a portable power source and a place to store the oxygen it makes, all of which could make it just as, if not more bulky than MOXIE, he says. If space agencies were willing to spend millions of dollars developing it, as NASA did with MOXIE, the plasma approach could mature, Hecht says. He especially likes how the electron beam could be tuned to split other atmospheric molecules, such as nitrogen, to create fertilizer. There's nothing wrong with the plasma technique other than it's a lot less mature than MOXIE, he says. And that's the article. That's pretty cool.
Yeah,
And the
I
fertile
think it will be.
and the nitrogen. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Don't you think it will be also important for Earth? Like, the more we keep screwing up our world, that we that we will need this technology at some point. Like, if we keep killing, especially the ocean ecosystem is dying
Oh my
quite
God.
rapidly.
Yes, I was just reading about phytoplankton, and we get, I think it's about 80% of our oxygen from the plankton, from those little guys, and how challenged they are. Um, yeah, it was really that's sobering, Katarina, to think that we're destroying what we have. So we need to generate more when we have this beautiful, beautiful, oxygen factory and.
Yeah, it's sad, but I mean, in order to be able to scale this for our population, I mean, we need really endless energy supply, which we would need cold fusion, like not cold fusion, like fusion to develop for this, because we need to clean the water, we need to desalinate it, we need to clean or make clean air or oxygen, so this will be very costly. So I mean, it's important that we are working on it for Mars, but we will maybe use it first here. I don't know.
Or maybe since it's dealing with CO2, maybe it would be something that would be used if, for example, we had underground living situations. So the people that are there we are producing lots of CO2, and without any tweaking of the air, then we would create a Martian situation, and so it could be used there, small scale.
Yeah, I read a paper the other day that there is a theory that life itself, like, destroyed the the environment so much on Mars, including the oxygen and whatever they needed, that life itself destroyed it. Like microorganisms and stuff. I have to look it up, but it's a theory that most of the time actually life destroys than life faster than it can evolve into larger organisms, which is kind of an interesting theory, and that's why maybe we don't find it as abundantly as we assume we would, because it just flares up basically and destroys itself quite fast with the byproducts life produces. Go ahead, Joyce.
I was just saying that's very interesting. We kind of thinking that, maybe we have to evolve to this point to destroy the planet, but maybe not. I mean, to destroy life, evolve to the point where we can alter the environment so much like we're doing in the industrial society. But what you said is very interesting, that it could happen just from, changes in the microorganisms and what they were doing to the atmosphere. It's very interesting.
Yeah, I'm just again going, with microorganisms, going back to the plankton, because normally in a day and then seasonally, they migrate up and down. So they're migrating up so they can photosynthesize, so, they're closer to sunlight, and then they're migrating down, it's believed, so that they avoid predation. But if we're killing them, on the up when they're up there, rising temperatures and altered light. Yeah,
Yeah, I shared the
I want to help.
article. I shared the article in the chat. First Martian life likely broke the planet with climate change and made themselves extinct. The microbes could have created a reverse greenhouse effect, which made the planet inhospitable. Ancient microbial life on Mars could have destroyed the planet's atmosphere through climate change, which ultimately led to its extinction, new research suggested. The new theory comes from a climate modeling study that simulated hydrogen-consuming, methane-producing microbes living on Mars roughly 3.7 billion years ago. At the time, atmospheric conditions were similar to those that existed on ancient Earth during the same period. But instead of creating an environment that would help them thrive and evolve, as happened on Earth, Martian microbes may have doomed themselves just as they were getting started, according to the study published October 10th in the journal Nature Astronomy. The model suggests that the reason life thrived on Earth was doomed on Mars is because of the gas composition of the two planets and their relative distance from the Sun. Being farther away from our star than Earth, Mars was more reliant on a potent fog of heat-trapping greenhouse gases such as carbon dioxide and hydrogen to maintain hospitable temperatures for life. So as ancient Martian microbes ate hydrogen, a potent greenhouse gas, and produced methane, a significant greenhouse gas on Earth but less potent than hydrogen, they slowly ate into their planet's heat-trapping blanket, eventually making Mars so cold that it could no longer evolve complex life. As Martian surface temperatures drop from a tolerable range between 68 and 14 degrees, 10 to 20 degrees Celsius Fahrenheit, to a punishing minus 70 Fahrenheit or 57 Celsius. The microbes fled deeper and deeper into the warmer crust of the planet, burrowing more than 0.6 mile, 1 kilometer deep, only a few 100 million years after the cooling event. To find evidence for their theory, the researchers want to find out if any of these ancient microbes survived. Traces of methane have been detected on Mars' sparse atmosphere by satellites, as well as in the form of alien burps spotted by NASA's Curiosity rover, which could be evidence that the microbes still exist. The scientists believe their findings wait, it was messed up. The scientists believe their findings suggest that life may not be innately self-sustaining in every conducive environment it pops in, and that it can easily wipe itself out by accidentally destroying the foundations for its own existence. The ingredients of life are everywhere in the universe, said lead author Boris Sotir, an astrobiologist at the Institut de Biologie à l'École Normale Supérieure in Paris, France, told Space.com. So it's possible that life appears regularly in the universe, but the inability of life to maintain habitable conditions on the surface of the planet makes it go extinct very fast. Our experiment takes it even a step farther, as it shows that even a very primitive biosphere can have a completely self-destructive effect. Yeah, so we were lucky that we had the right distance, apparently, to be warm enough. We eat up greenhouse gas.
Yeah, and it also just shows how important greenhouse gases are in the development, and how it's just very prone to being affected and then having dramatic consequences. So it's very, very interesting.
I'm so curious what Howard Shore would have to say about this, because you remember he was speaking here about a kind of collective evolution. And I know it's kind of anthropomorphizing to, try to think of, that it's happening on purpose, but maybe for survival purposes. We could think of it that way. And I don't know, maybe we have a, presupposed outcome of survival, and maybe the outcome was just to create this Martian atmosphere that exists now. But I'm just curious what, how he might apply that, his philosophy to that situation. But I love that idea that that I guess that final statement, the ingredients of life are everywhere in the universe. That's really thought provoking in an exciting way. So it's possible that life appears regularly in the universe.
Yeah, I mean, we had a guest speaker here that he showed that even proteins could even form on stardust. Do you remember? And quite easily, that all the ingredients are there very abundantly, and proteins are theorized to be, I mean, a lot goes into RNAs first, but RNAs are very, like, they need very precise environments to survive. They are very fragile. If you worked, I don't know if anyone ever worked with RNA, but you need to wipe
I
everything
did
off.
extraction of
Yeah.
RNA for viral load. So
Don't you think it's so puzzling how people think that was the first building blocks? Because you need so precise, very careful environment for it to survive.
What they do is so precise, and maybe that's the reason. But I just wanted to interject that again, what you're saying, and the idea that ingredients of life are everywhere in the universe. It makes me think of, if anybody has kids, or you've ever taken care of kids and they come into you and say, I'm really hungry, and then you tell them, go in the kitchen, make something, there's plenty to eat. There's, if you look, you can find something. So it sounds like, on a grander scale, that's what the universe is like. You want to make life, the ingredients are there, just go find them.
Yeah, so he showed that to create protein is actually not a big deal, even on stardust out there in the universe. And then, some other labs focus on RNA, but more in conditions here on Earth, like in the ocean and so on. And but maybe a combination of both is necessary, I guess. It is necessary for the life we have now, and then DNA and so on. But to form in the beginning, proteins are really easy. I don't know. We can just talk about it. It's not like anyone knows 100% for sure. Don't you think it's like proteins are more like the analog creative idea, like you would build something out of wood or something, but then if you go and use DNA and RNA, it's more like you want to become more elaborate and program like a robot that you made out of stuff, that it has behavior and different things. Like the most simple thing you can buy, you can build more complex, is out of just raw materials you find out there. But if you want to program it to have different functions and do different things, you then go and program stuff, use algorithms. That's kind of how I imagine it. Like I would bring it later on if first you build stuff and then you kind of want the stuff you build to do certain things to self-sustain, so then you add like DNA or like RNA, DNAs and stuff like that.
I'm just going over that article about peptides on stardust may have provided a shortcut to life, and comparing that to how protein synthesis in a cellular situation versus on stardust, and how the vacuum and absence of water facilitates that. That is, yeah.
You want to read some of it?
Yeah,
Go
I
ahead.
could. Yeah,
I
okay. This is an article from Quantum Magazine. It's from, okay, it's good. It's current March 8th, 2022. And just stop me if it gets, it's a little, okay, it's just a little longer than the other one. So stop me at any time, please. I won't hurt my feelings. Billions, okay, the title, it is titled, Peptides on Stardust May Have Provided a Shortcut to Life. Billions of years ago, some unknown location on the sterile primordial Earth became a cauldron of complex molecules from which the first cells emerged. Origin of life researchers have proposed countless imaginative ideas about how that occurred and where the necessary raw ingredients came from. Some of the most difficult to account for are proteins, the critical backbones of cellular chemistry, because in nature today they are made exclusively by living cells. How did the first protein form without life to make it? Scientists have mostly looked for clues on Earth, yet a new discovery suggests that the answer could be found beyond the sky inside dark interstellar clouds. Last month in Nature Astronomy, a group of astrobiologists, yay astrobiology, showed that peptides, the molecular subunits of proteins, can spontaneously form on the solid frozen particles of cosmic dust drifting through the universe, and those peptides could, in theory, have traveled inside comets and meteorites to the young Earth and to other worlds to become some of the starting materials for life. The simplicity and favorable thermodynamics of this new space-based mechanism for forming peptides make it a more promising alternative to the known purely chemical processes that could have occurred on a lifeless Earth, according to Sergei Krasnokutsky, the lead author on the new paper and a researcher at the Max Planck Institute for Astronomy and the Friedrich Schiller Institute in Germany. And that simplicity suggests that proteins were among the first molecules involved in the evolutionary process leading to life, he said. Whether those peptides could have survived their arduous trek from space and contributed meaningfully to the origin of life is very much an open question. Paul Falkowski, a professor at the School of Environmental and Biological Sciences at Rutgers University, said that the chemistry demonstrated in the new paper is very cool, but doesn't yet bridge the phenomenal gap between proto-prebiotic chemistry and the first evidence of life. And he added, there's a spark that's still missing. Still, the finding by Krasnokutsky and his colleagues show that peptides might be a much more readily available resource throughout the universe than scientists believed, a possibility that could also have consequences for the prospects for life elsewhere. This is the good part. Cells make the production of proteins look easy. They manufacture both peptides and proteins extravagantly, empowered by the environment's rich and useful molecules like amino acids and their own stockpiles of genetic instructions and catalytic enzymes, which are themselves typical proteins. But before cells existed, there wasn't an easy way to do it on Earth, Krasnokutsky said. Without any of the enzymes that biochemistry provides, the production of peptides is an efficient two-step process that involves first making amino acids and then removing the water as amino acids link up into chains in a process called polymerization. Both steps have a high energy barrier, so they occur only if large amounts of energy are available to help kickstart the reaction. And because of these requirements, most theories about origin of proteins have either centered on scenarios in extreme environments, such as near hydrothermal vents in the ocean floor, or assumed the presence of molecules like RNA with catalytic properties that could lower the energy barrier enough to push the reactions forward. The most popular origin of life theory proposes that RNA preceded all other molecules, including proteins, and even under those circumstances, Krasnokutsky said that special conditions would be needed to concentrate the amino acids enough for polymerization. Although there have been many proposals, it isn't clear how and where those conditions could have arisen on the primordial Earth. But now, Researchers say they've found a shortcut to proteins, a simpler chemical pathway that re-energizes the theory that proteins were present very early in the genesis of life. Last year, in Low Temperature Physics, that's a periodical, Krasnokutski predicted through a series of calculations that a more direct way to make peptides could exist under the conditions available in space, inside the extremely dense and frigid clouds of dust and gas that linger between stars. These molecular clouds, the nurseries of new stars and solar systems, are packed with cosmic dust and chemicals, some of the most abundant of which are carbon monoxide, atomic carbon, and ammonia. In their new paper, Krasnokutski and his colleagues showed that these reactions in the gas clouds would likely lead to the condensation of carbon onto cosmic dust particles and the formation of small particles called aminoketones. These aminoketones would spontaneously link up to form a very simple peptide called polyglycine. By skipping the formation of amino acids, reactions could proceed spontaneously without needing energy from the environment. And to test their claim, the researchers experimentally simulated the conditions found in molecular clouds. This is so cool. Inside a ultra-high vacuum chamber, they mimicked the icy surface of cosmic dust particles by depositing carbon monoxide and ammonia onto substrate plates chilled to minus 263 degrees Celsius. They then deposited carbon atoms on top of this ice layer to simulate their condensation inside molecular clouds. Chemical analyses confirmed that the vacuum stimulation had indeed produced various forms of polyglycines up to chains 10 or 11 subunits long. The researchers hypothesized that billions of years ago, as cosmic dust stuck together and formed asteroids and comets, simple peptides on the dust could have hitchhiked to Earth in meteorites and other impactors. They might have done the same on countless other worlds, too. The delivery of peptides to Earth and other planets certainly would provide a head start to forming life. Daniel Glavin, an astrobiologist at NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center. But I think there's a large jump to go from interstellar ice dust chemistry to life on Earth. First, the peptides would have to endure the perils of their journey through the universe, from radiation to water exposure inside asteroids, both of which can fragment the molecules, and then they'd have to survive the impact of hitting a planet. And even if they made it through all that, they would still have to go through a lot of chemical evolution to get large enough to fold into proteins that are useful for biological chemistry, Glavin said. Is there evidence that this has happened? Astrobiologists have discovered many small molecules, including amino acids, inside meteorites, and one study from 2002 discovered that 2 meteorites held extremely small, simple peptides made from 2 amino acids. But researchers have yet to discover other convincing evidence for the presence of such peptides and proteins in meteorites or samples returned from asteroids or comets, Glavin said. It's unclear if the nearly total absence of even relatively small peptides in space rocks means that they don't exist, or if we just haven't detected them yet. But Krasnokutski's work could still encourage more scientists to really start looking for these more complex molecules in extraterrestrial materials, Glavin said. For example, next year's NASA OSIRIS-REx spacecraft is expected to bring back samples from the asteroid Bennu, and Glavin and his team plan to look for more of these types of molecules. The researchers are now planning to test whether bigger peptides or different types of peptides can form in molecular clouds. Other chemicals and energetic photons in the interstellar medium might be able to trigger the formation of larger and more complex molecules, Krasnokutski said. Through their unique laboratory window into molecular clouds, they hope to witness peptides getting longer and longer and one day folding like natural origami into beautiful proteins that burst with potential. The end.
Yeah, thank you so much for reading this. It was a really great room, and I know Serena was here. She could explain it much better, everything. She was also fast because she's a biochemist by training. And yeah, it was a fascinating talk. And the experiments they did were really impressive. And yeah, it's very, apparently it's very easy for proteins to occur. Just, what happens next is not, doesn't have to lead to life or anything. It's just that. And NASA, let me find that one. They actually found first, NASA researchers make first discovery of life's building blocks in comet. This is on nasa.gov. I can share it. And they discovered glycine, a fundamental building block of life, in samples of comet Wild 2, and that was returned by NASA's Stardust spacecraft. Glycine is an amino acid used by living organisms to make proteins, and this is the first time an amino acid has been found in a comet. And this was in 2009, which then sparked basically these experiments. Here is the website, and this sparked these experiments, and then they did the experiments and found that it was way easier than we thought it was. And then we had another guest speaker here who developed a different imaging of stardust and the universe. I have to remember right now. And he found a way higher like mixes of molecules than we ever expected before that exist in the universe floating out there. Do you remember? They used like a radio frequency analysis. I don't want to say wrong things. I would have to look it up.
Can you just paraphrase again what that research was, so I can?
It was, they used that, so I have to look it up before I say stupid things, and it's
It's
recorded.
okay to do that.
He used a new system of looking out into space that they kind of helped develop, and because of that, he could all of the sudden discover a huge variety of molecules sticking together, like different compounds that we never expected to be floating out there in the universe. I think the first analysis came back with like hundreds of new like compositions that they never expected in the universe. Do you remember that talk? It was in the very beginning, I think, for our club.
I'm blending them a lot of them together. I could do like a mad scroll down our profiles, but I don't. I'm just thinking of the magnitude of it. Well, the size of these particles that we're discussing. The magnitude of the effect is not small, but someone must be laughing somewhere. Maybe they know how they got here, and here we're making all these proposals to the mechanisms, and somewhere there must be a kind of a system that just has the answer and is waiting for us to find it out. Sorry, that doesn't answer your question. I don't exactly remember that because I'm blending all this astrobiology talks into one place.
Yeah, we had one about water. So we had that was Dr. Salamat. He was an amazing speaker. He made different types of waters that they were discovered yet, like under different pressures and temperatures with different that so that was one of them. but he is actually interested. So he got funding for this, for the different planets on the universe type of research. But he is also very interested in using water as a superconductor, and then published about that too, which is kind of interesting. That out of pure curiosity, something really cool that that can be, you know, interesting for our current technology emerges. Because we talked, I think, a lot, many times with different guest speakers, how, you know, it's important to just focus on curiosity, not doing research just for purpose, but also have this pure curiosity. And this was pure curiosity, I think, that led to this really interesting
Katarina,
research. Yeah, are you?
we have a very special guest who's
Oh,
just arrived.
hi.
Vasco,
How are you?
welcome.
Hi, hello.
You're
Hi.
smiling too. It's great. We held it down.
Yeah,
We saved you space.
We
yeah.
were
So,
chatting for a while because I think I don't know, we mixed up 1 hour maybe. Do you see
yeah.
the
So
time
I'm
already?
sorry. I'm ready. I thought I was early, but apparently I'm like 45 minutes late. Is that so?
It's fine. We were talking, so to give you, so I introduced, like I gave some background information about you, and then we were talking about different topics, like in space. If
Okay.
that, so we had the guess, like origins of life. We somehow came to it from. Let me try to recapitulate. So we thought maybe we will need your technology one day on Earth, uh, because we are destroying everything. Then there was a recent article coming out that um, that on Mars probably the early life destroyed itself because it was eating up all the greenhouse gases, but Mars needs it because it's further away from the sun to keep the temperature for living things
Mhm.
stable. And then we talked about life, like how life emerges, and we had the guest speaker here a while ago that found that on a stardust they can form proteins really easily. And then we went back and forth about those theories, and yeah, so basically a little bit about about the universe and life.
And life and everything.
So even in your absence, you've inspired a great deal of discussion and interest. So we thank you for that.
But yeah, we didn't take away from your talk at all, uh, because we just went around the universe and, you know, keeping your curiosity for your work up.
Yeah, good.
So if it's okay, usually Victoria asks like a couple of interview questions first, and then
Mhm.
and then we can talk about your research, if that's okay with you.
It's
And
fine.
welcome.
Perfectly fine. Yes.
Welcome. Thank you for coming.
No, thank you also for invitation.
All right. Well, thank you very much and welcome. We're so happy to see you. So, Science Society is really about people exploring knowledge together, and we'd love to get our listeners together with information and also with the people who are driving the development and discovery of that information, meaning you. And when we learn about each other, then it can help deepen our understanding about what we are communicating. And so, to deepen our understanding about you as the guest, then what I'd like to ask you is if you can think through your lifetime and in childhood or adulthood and try to locate what the entry point might have been for you to feel a pull toward an interest in science.
Uh, it's this retrospective question. Yes. So,
only only
yes.
as far as you would like to introspect. That
No,
that's
it's fine.
yeah.
Let me
No
just take
pressure.
off sound off my phone. And no, I never had too much doubts, I have to say. It was not something that was clear that I want to do science, or I want to be more on science, but it was more by elimination. So I always felt attracted more on the mathematics and physics side, and it was always very natural. Already in high school to have elective courses more on the engineering side, and physics was really my passion always. It's funny for me to think that I didn't like chemistry that much, and what I do now is rather close to chemistry. But physics has a very peculiar way of looking at the universe, of looking at the world. I might sound a bit arrogant saying that, but yeah, physics is rather unique in sciences on the way it looks at the universe. It's not better or worse, it's just its own way. And I always felt very attracted by it since I remember. Then, as I advanced on the studies, it was this I was telling by elimination, yeah, choosing topics that I like more. I start by liking everything, and then finding out, oh, finally, this I don't like that much. And then, okay, this plasma physics I'm doing, it was the survival of this elimination process. To tell you, well, something on the side, I studied music for a while, and at the moment of joining university, I was not sure if I could get a place in the university. So it's a Portuguese system. We have a limited number of places at university, and I was thinking, oh, I don't know if my grades are high enough to join the physics graduation. And then I thought, if I don't enter, I will do my career as musician. I would not have been a very good musician, but that was my state of mind at that moment.
Thank you for that sidebar. How many of our guest speakers also began their studies in music? And isn't maybe I'm hoping that you still pursue music as something in your life, of course, if you want to. But yeah, also interesting to hear about your process of elimination and to find yourself in the work that you're in now. So can you please take us from the point of your studies and maybe lead us along a journey to the research that you're going to present today, how you got from there to here?
Yeah, so first, this music is really a bit puzzling for me. I make the same observation as you make, that the percentage of people that study music and are on science is, for me, strangely high. I don't know the reason, but there is a correlation somewhere that someone will find out one day. I don't know exactly what this correlation is. Then, to be honest, there are things, of course, we like more. And in my case, the fascinating topic was how to translate a microscopic world, so atoms and molecules, to a macroscopic world. So we live in a macroscopic world. I know some of you are also scientists, and so sorry if I say something very basic. I'm not sure on the background of everybody. But physicists are very basic people. So there is this joke that I study a system with one particle. And if there are two particles, say, oh, you are a chemist. And if there are three particles, you say, oh, a biologist. So for physicists, three particles is already a lot. And okay, chemists are more practical people. They count in these Avogadro numbers, 10 to the power of 23 particles. For them, this is one. But there is, of course, the need at some point to make this bridge. How do we pass from a description where we count particles with our hands and we try to follow all the particles and so on, to a description where, in the end, we abstract this internal structure to arrive at what we observe on life, on our everyday life. So as a simple example, if you have whatever, sorry for the boring example, if you have a metal rod at a certain temperature, you measure the temperature and it is a number that we know. But of course, the microscopic configuration of the atoms and molecules that are in this bar are always different and are, but it's not even countable. So let me use the word infinite. There are infinite configurations that give the same macroscopic state, which is a bar at a certain temperature. And this was fascinating for me to try to understand how we go from this microscopic world to the macroscopic world. Oh, sorry, I'm really sorry. I need to open the door of my house. Just 5 seconds.
Go let those particles in.
I'm
Oh,
really
we
sorry.
love that. It's just real life, and it's fantastic.
I was
Yeah.
I left the key inside the door, so
Well, now you're safe.
my wife could not
No,
enter.
we have dogs barking and children screaming. So.
Yeah. So I was just saying this was what fascinated me most as a topic, and then also of course we have these things that we don't control, and sometimes we have very inspiring teachers, and maybe we like more the teacher than the topic, but this is also has a influence on our path, huh? And that was on the process of elimination between physics that I did not really enjoy because I went with a certain expectation, if I can use the word, of a certain beauty of the theory. And finally, I didn't. When I studied it, I found, oh, finally, this is not that elegant. This type of subjective things, and this effect of having very inspiring teachers on some topics. Yeah, this was also very important.
Okay, well, thank you. Not boring at all. All the, we're science people. All the details are fantastic. And really, again, about your comment about music, it's just relationships and communicating, and it's just dealing with different media, in my mind, anyway. So now I would like to just hand the mic over to you so you can go into your talk. We're really ready for hearing it. And if you would like to save your Q&A till the end, that's up to you. And if you'd like questions to drive your talk along, then we are here to moderate that for you. And also often people, I guess, will put questions in the chat, and we are here to read those for you. So unless you have any other questions, the mic is yours. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So yeah, let's do it easy way. So I will start, and yeah, feel free to interrupt at any time, just because you have a question, or just because it's too detailed or too less detailed. So you can feel free to guide me as well, because I of course have my way of presenting, but it's not, maybe not necessarily what interests you the most. So feel free to guide me a bit, and I will try to adjust on the fly. Also, if I get too long, tell me that I should stop. Don't be afraid of the saying that. Okay, so let me. This was motivated, yeah, by this article that you have seen. So the title is there: Plasma for in situ resource utilization on Mars, fuels, life support, and agriculture. The first thing I have to mention, of course, my collaborators. They co-signed the paper. There are many other collaborators, but at least those who co-signed the paper I have to mention. So Tiago Silva and Nuno Pinhão, my colleagues in Lisbon, Florian Peters, Michalis Sampas, and Richard van de Sanden from the Dutch Institute for Fundamental Energy Research at the Netherlands, and Olivier Gaitella from Laboratoire de Physique des Plasmas in École Polytechnique in France. Of course, nobody does things alone, really alone, and we are working together on this for a while. So going to Mars is, it's, I think, a bit part of the imaginary of everybody nowadays. It's many books, science fiction movies, and actual missions of exploration to Mars. So NASA has this Mars 2020 Perseverance rover that landed actually 2021. The European Space Agency has ExoMars, started in 2016, I think. Now it's a bit postponed because the situation in the world in Eastern Europe is not brilliant, and so they were depending on the Russian rockets. So it's a bit postponed. SpaceX keeps thinking about settlement on Mars and sending humans 2029 or so. We don't know, but well, they are thinking on it. So a lot of activity around Mars and really excites our imagination. So, but going to Mars is of course not easy. I will not describe all the difficulties, but it's far away. So, depending on the position of Earth and Mars, can be from 50 to 400 million kilometers. The other thing is that to have a good trajectory for a spaceship to fly to Mars, the positions of Earth and Mars have to be well aligned in the proper way, and this happens only once every 2 years, more or less. So if we fail, we have to wait another 2 years to have the good window to launch. It's a long trip, 180 days, with a lot of radiation in the middle. If we land there, we may have to stay there for 1 year before we try to return. If we lose this window of opportunity to launch, because when we arrive, then the configuration is not good. So yeah, all the logistics is very complicated. And carrying water, air to breathe, fuel, food, everything is very complex. So in this context, of course, that everything that we can produce or avoid produce there on Mars or avoid carrying with us on the spaceship is very, very, very important. And hence this notion of in situ resource utilization. I think the name speaks by itself, but this means harnessing the resources on the exploration site instead of carrying them from Earth, or use them to produce something there on the exploration site. So main things create a breathable environment, so producing oxygen and producing fuels so that we can get back home. So I used to say, let's make a gas station on Mars so that we can make our life easier. So for this, we thought that we could take advantage of the conditions on Mars. So what are these conditions? Essentially the atmospheric composition. So Mars has an atmosphere of carbon dioxide, so CO2. It's about 96% is CO2, with a bit of nitrogen, 2%, and a bit of argon, another 2%. So the main resource we are interested in is the oxygen that is in the carbon dioxide. So it's CO2, so we want to extract O2. So for that, of course, we need to decompose the CO2 molecule, so to break CO2. And we propose to use plasmas to do this, to decompose the CO2. So I will go in a moment to why plasmas are interesting. So briefly to what are plasmas and then why we think they can be useful. But just before that, so the big scheme is then that we take energy from sun or wind, like renewables on Earth, but on Mars, and we use this energy to break the CO2 molecule. Then the O2 we can use directly for life support, and the CO that remains can be used as part of a propellant mixture. O2 can also be part of a propellant mixture. So liquid oxygen is a rocket propellant. We can also think in mixing with hydrogen, so it's another path, and to create hydrocarbon fuels like those we use on Earth, variants of gasoline or so. But for that we need hydrogen, so that's another issue. So thinking a bit further on this generic scheme, so we already pick O2 from CO2, but we still have N2 nitrogen in the atmosphere. So once we separate oxygen and if we mix the oxygen with nitrogen, we create nitric oxides, which are the base for nitrogen-based fertilizer. So hence this idea to one day do agriculture on Mars, and we have naturally there fertilizers. The carbon that is on CO2, so the C carbon, is also important as a fertilizer, but it's also a material that can be used to build a carbon structure, so a building material. And we can also start thinking on synthesizing organic molecules and other things. So this is more far-fetched, but just to point out that just on the atmosphere of Mars, we have the oxygen, we have the carbon monoxide that is good for fuels, we have the nitrogen that mixed with oxygen is good for fertilizers, and we can maybe even use carbon itself. So this looks nice, but is this possible, or is this mission impossible? It's difficult. The first step is already very difficult because CO2 is a very, very hard molecule to break. It's very stable, so we need to put a lot of energy to break this molecule. And also when we break it, it likes to be a molecule, so it tends to recombine back, so the CO and O, to form back CO2 again. We think that by using our plasmas, we can take advantage of this. So the very difficult parts of the process are this decomposition, but also the separation, because even if we decompose CO2, we will find ourselves with a mixture of our oxygen that we are interested in, but it will be mixed with carbon monoxide and carbon dioxide and other species. And imagine that we want to breathe this oxygen. Of course, we don't want to have any trace of carbon monoxide in our breathing mixture. So we need to separate in a very pure way this oxygen. So the two big challenges: first, decompose, and then decompose CO2, and then separate the oxygen that we break from the molecule. So far, so good, I hope. Okay, so then just what is plasma? So in case you have some training or just curiosity and Googled on the plasma, you have read it's the fourth state of matter. So this goes as in elementary school, and so we start with a solid, a cube of ice if we are thinking on water. Then we put energy into our system, so we heat the system and we break some of the bonds and our solid becomes a liquid. And if we put more energy into our system, if we continue to heat, after a while all our molecules are separated and we go from liquid to vapor or to gas. And the question is, what happens if we still put more energy into the system? So if we continue to heat from a gas. And the answer is that at a certain time, a certain moment, we have enough energy to remove some of the electrons from the nuclei. So we have now an ionized gas. So we have some molecules like in the gas that are not ionized, and we have some ions and some free electrons. And of course, these charged particles, the ions and the free electrons, can be easily accelerated by electric fields. And that's what we are going to do to use plasma technology to produce oxygen on Mars, really. So the textbook definition of plasma is this one. It's an ionized gas, what I explained, and then I did not explain, but okay, we also claim it's a quasi-neutral system, so about the same negative charge and positive charge. And something that sounds a bit exotic for you, it's that it exhibits a collective behavior. So I just put this out of completeness, the full definition of plasma. So this exhibits a collective behavior was also very funny on the description in the textbooks from the Soviet Union, but that's another lecture, not this one. So plasmas are, it looks maybe a bit unusual, what I have said, but in fact 99% of the visible matter of the universe is in the state of plasma. It happens we live in a place where plasma is not so common, so we don't have that much intuition, but still we are familiar with plasma. So the stars are plasma, The nebula in the sky are plasma, the solar wind is plasma, but also the aurora or the northern lights are plasma, and more common to us, so lightning or fire are also plasmas. So we have this notion, we know what plasma is, or at least we know some examples of what plasmas are. And again, it's about 99% of the visible matter of the universe, so it's everywhere. So back to our CO2. So how then can use the plasmas to decompose CO2? So I mentioned that we have these free electrons that are not attached, bound to any nuclei. So if we have an electric field that can accelerate these electrons, they gain energy very fast. So their mass is very small, so they will be accelerated. The ions are heavy, they will not accelerate that much, but the electrons, yes, they can go very fast. So you can imagine easily that the electron goes really fast, bullet-like, and hits a CO2 molecule. So what happens? Well, it has a good chance of breaking the CO2 molecule. So it just hits very fast the CO2 molecule and breaks it. It can also happen that instead of breaking the molecule, it just transfers enough energy to make the molecule to vibrate. This looks bad at the first time because we want to decompose CO2, but in the end we can use this energy that is then stored in the vibration of the molecule to what I say to make the molecule sing. So music is again behind us. So it's this image of a singer that when he's singing in the correct frequency can break the crystal glass. So that's a resonance mechanism. It's not exactly what we have here, but the image is probably good. So you see, imagine the molecule that is vibrating, and somehow we manage to increase the amplitude of vibration and increase it until the molecules break. So our electrons from the plasma can decompose directly in a fast collision or in a slower collision, put the molecule to vibrate, but maybe we can then, again, make the molecules sing and break them anyway. So we have what we call a selective use of energy. So our idea was precisely this, that we could use the plasmas to these fast electrons to decompose the molecule. So our first work is from 2017. It's a more theoretical work and some numerical simulation where we were arguing that Mars has very good conditions for this decomposition by plasma. First, again, because most of the atmosphere is carbon dioxide. Then, because the nitrogen and argon that are there in the atmosphere would play in favor of plasma. And then, compared with Earth, Mars has a lower pressure, about 150 times smaller than on Earth, and that would be good. And it also has a lower temperature than on Earth. So average temperature is about minus 50 Celsius. I think this is about minus 60 Fahrenheit. And so this lower temperature would also be good for the plasma. So this was our first, let's say, conjecture supported by our theoretical study and numerical simulations. And then on a subsequent work that was published already 2021, together with our French and Dutch colleagues, we have demonstrated experimentally these ideas. So now my question for you. So why I do it usually if I have a screen. This is just audio. You can imagine this Who Wants to Be Billionaire screen. So how can the pressure help? So why this 150 times lower pressure is good? And the options are because we need many molecules to make it efficient, because we need very few molecules, because we need something in the middle, neither too many nor too few, or finally it doesn't matter. So I cannot see you raising hands, but I give you just a few moments to think about it. And the correct answer is that we don't want too many molecules nor too few. Because if we have a lot of molecules, meaning a high pressure, when our electrons try to accelerate, they immediately collide. So they lose their energy. And then they try to accelerate and they collide. So it's like you are in a metro in a rush hour and you want to run. You cannot, because you are always colliding with someone that is very close. So you cannot gain speed because you are always colliding. So high pressure, meaning too many molecules, is not good. But too few molecules, meaning too low pressure, is also not good, because if you are in an empty station, of course you can run very fast, but if your life depends on finding someone else, you will only find one person from time to time. So we want to decompose CO2, so we need these collisions. So we need to have enough molecules to have these collisions. So we need to have the good pressure, not too high, not too low, and Mars is precisely the pressure that is required for efficient plasma operation. So it's almost magic, but this is the case. So, and this was what we were demonstrating in this first work. Also for the temperature, so how can the temperature help? So temperature is smaller than on Earth. So my options, again, quiz, because low temperature helps the molecules sink. So if they are vibrating, it's easier to make them vibrate even more. Or maybe we hinder the back reactions. So the reactions that pick CO and O and give back CO2 that we don't want will be slower. Or do we have more time to separate the oxygen from this mixture? Or all of the options? And the correct answer is all of the options. So the low temperature is actually good for all these reasons. So if we put the molecule to vibrate, it is easier to make it sink. It will slow down all the chemistry, so we have more time for separation, and the molecules will not recombine that easily. So at this point, then we have done this experimental study where we have shown that the presence of argon and nitrogen was favorable, not too much, but helped a little bit more on the decomposition of CO2. And another interesting result was that if instead of recreating the conditions on Mars, so this, in particular, this lower temperature, the pressure we always need to recreate to study on Earth what happens on Mars, the results are very close to operating at Earth temperature. So it helps a little bit, but nothing too special. So we can make our life easier and study the system at room temperature on Earth. And so finally, we arrive at this paper that you have seen. And almost in the beginning of the lecture, I said, okay, we have two critical steps, so decomposing CO2 and separating the oxygen. And this is now the next step. So we were focusing first just on the decomposition of CO2, and now we are bringing, in fact, plasmas together with a separation membrane and coupling them to solve the decomposition and separation problems at the same time. So it's not that first we decompose and then we separate, it's that we do everything at once. So we are thinking on a design where our plasma is in contact with the separation membrane, and we have a true synergy. So the plasma is better because the membrane is there, and the membrane is better because the plasma is there. And the bottom line is that if with the membrane, as soon as we start dissociating the CO2, decomposing it, we start extracting the oxygen, then the oxygen is no longer there to form back CO2. So that's fine. And also the plasma will affect the membrane. In the simpler way, it will just heat the membrane. It will transfer its energy. And these membranes need a bit of heating to operate properly. So we don't need to spend energy in heating this membrane. So I'm arriving to the end, but I want to compare a little bit what we are thinking and proposing with the experiment that is already running on Mars. So NASA has this machine, MOXIE, the Mars Oxygen In Situ Resource Utilization Experiment, which is, of course, an incredible achievement, a very beautiful machine. that works on a completely different, a very different principle. And if I can put it in a simple way, maybe it's a bit simplistic, but not too much, is that the people in NASA, they use technology that exists on Earth. So what they needed to do first on Mars is to sort of recreate the conditions on Earth. So compress the thin atmosphere and heat the atmosphere so that we recreate the conditions for operation on Earth. And we need to eat, in fact, more than room temperature on Earth, because even on Earth, this technology requires heating. So most of the power that is used in MOXIE, in this NASA experiment, is used for compression of the atmosphere and heating the system. Then carbon dioxide arrives at, I use the big words of this solid oxide electrolysis cell, doesn't matter. So this separation stage, and with this strong compression and heating and expensive catalysts on the surface, we decompose the oxygen that is then transported across the membrane. So very good points. It's a very robust technology. It's already on Mars. But not so good points. It has a very low energy efficiency, and it uses scarce and expensive rare earth metals, which makes scalability difficult. Of course, people on the MOXIE project are already working on trying to work it at not so strong conditions, not so close on Earth, solving these problems of scalability and so on. But this is more or less the bottom line. So for our plasma technology, it's the opposite, as more or less. So we don't want to recreate the conditions on Earth. It's quite the opposite. Maybe if we want to operate on Earth, we need to recreate the conditions on Mars. So we directly take advantage of the conditions on Mars. This is one of the things that I like with this plasma, is that we really take advantage of conditions on Mars. So we achieved dissociation of carbon dioxide of the order of 30-40%, which is quite good already. Plasmas are scalable and adequate for intermittent operation, so there is no problem in starting or stopping operation when there is a sun or when there is not. It's also very versatile, so the same device that we can use to separate oxygen, we can use then to produce fertilizers, just changing the feed gas. But of course, technology does not exist first. This product separation is still challenging, so a lot of work is still to be done. But our expectation, if the numbers add up properly, and for now we have no reason to believe they do not add up properly, is that in the end we can have production of oxygen that is really very competitive with the NASA experiment, that in fact we can produce more or the same amount of oxygen per hour, but with a smaller and a lighter device. And as you can imagine, every gram that we spare on a machine that goes to Mars, every cubic centimeter is very, very important. So I can put a number, but this is, what is in our estimation. How now, who knows what will be in the end? Maybe we will be worse than MOXIE, but our expectation is that we can be factor of 6-7 better in the oxygen produced per kilogram of instrumentation that we send to Mars. And this is more or less what I wanted to share with you, not entering too much in detail. So we confirmed, in fact, with our study that Mars has really very good natural conditions to use plasmas to extract these resources from the atmosphere. And this goes both on these very fast electrons that decompose directly, and also by this song of the molecules, well, they vibrate and increase their vibration. We see a positive effect of the constitution of the atmosphere. So nitrogen and argon, it's not very significant, but they don't bother at all. And this can make a very light and compact reactor, very competitive with what exists now. And to put big words, let's say that this can be a beginning of a new technology, very versatile, this coupling of plasma with membranes that can be used for life support, fuels, agriculture on Mars, but also for other applications on Earth. And just before I finish, I made an unforgivable, mistake of not mentioning Carmen Garcia from the MIT, who also signed the paper with us. And that's it. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for explaining it so comprehensively to us. The physics background and the technology. That was really wonderful. Thank you so much. And it's so interesting that the system is so versatile, because I don't know, don't you think we tend to forget things, important things, and then we are there and there's no way back? So is this first, like, is the system, like, what is the variety of applications that you could use that could maybe make up for our mistakes of planning?
Yeah, so let me answer first in a more generic way. So, in fact, this type of system, can be used to produce different molecules depending on the, let's say, the atmosphere that you put inside the reactor. So, if you just operate on Mars atmosphere, this is it. We go for extraction of oxygen. But I was saying for fertilizer. So instead of operating it on Martian atmosphere, we pre-select an atmosphere more Earth-like, so nitrogen and oxygen. Then we can go for fertilizers. If this is if we have hydrogen, so hydrogen maybe we have to carry from Earth. But speculation that it exists under the soil. Okay, there is this polar caps. Maybe there is water there. Maybe we want to use, maybe not. Okay, but anyway, if with hydrogen, then the possibilities multiply because we can mix also hydrogen to produce methane. There are many different. We can go for ammonia. So it's really versatile is the word. And it's a bit surprising maybe, but it's the case. So we don't need to really change the reactor. Maybe we need to change, membrane. So the separation part or how we separate may be different, but the reactor itself can be exactly the same. Which is, I think, a major asset of this technology, indeed. If I read your mind correctly, so you are thinking that okay, if we are in a sort of catastrophic situation, maybe we can then use this versatility in our advantage, so that we can tune and operate and somehow find a way out. I like that view. In fact.
Yeah, thank you, and thank you for that answer. And so how much energy do we need, and like how long is the process to have, let's say, enough oxygen for
Hmm.
person to live on, or for crops to grow? Like, we probably need to have like, for how much time do we need to bring stuff, and then does it kick in like after 2 months that we have enough, or what would be the time?
Yeah. So the system that we have now, of course, first it's not yet ready. So we're working on it. But the numbers that we have represent a production. I can put a number. It's like 15 grams of oxygen per hour, and human needs about 1 kilogram per day. So yeah, if you put 15 on 24 hours, you see we are with this device we have well, it's not 24 hours that the issue is that we don't have enough sun to power the system. But okay, let's simplify. We will have 1/3 of the day. It's less. It's of course less because we have less hours. But this is so a direct answer is that we spend about 300 watt for this machine. We can operate it at lower power, at the power that we need to ignite a lamp. It can be very low power. So these old lamps are 100 watts. So 300 is not that much. So of course, if you use now LED or some other, it's much less power. But if you think on the lamps that you had in a grandparent's house, it's 100 watts, something like that. So to operate at 300 watts is nothing special. And with it, we could have enough oxygen. Let's say if we leave it the full day with this device, a person would breathe for a few hours. But this is a prototype. So if we scale up and we think on something a little bit bigger, we see that we are in the scale of producing oxygen for breathing relatively quickly. For production of fuels, we are about a factor of 100 off. So we need either to have 100 devices on Mars or to come up with a more efficient or a bigger device or something like that. And to be honest, for fertilizers, I don't know. It's still need to interact with the colleagues from agriculture that I did not. Okay, I just know the basics, but I didn't estimate how much can we produce yet, because we are still focusing on the CO2 decomposition itself.
If Thank you for that answer. So, if this were used for human breathing, um, what is happening to the exhale? And
Mhm.
is that CO2 reused, or what about the other gases that make up the air that we, nitrogens and things?
Yeah. So that's a good question, of course. Um, yeah, because we breathe back CO2, so obviously. So we start having, if we are indoors, so we need a constant supply. So if you think some purification or recycling of indoors atmosphere already exists. So if we are in a submarine or if you are in the International Space Station, people breathe. They consume oxygen and they put CO2 back in the atmosphere, in the closed atmosphere, and then we need to recirculate, redecompose CO2, and so on. But the system always has loss, so we need to feed with oxygen again. And on Mars, it would be something similar. So this system that we are imagining would provide this initial supply of oxygen so that we could breathe in a closed room, but it would also provide the extra oxygen that we need to refill or to compensate for the losses for these breathing processes that you are thinking of.
Yeah, thank you for that answer. Um, and so, how much? Yeah, I keep going back to the question, but so you say that it would it be easy to scale up? Uh, I'm sorry, I had the phone call. Could you hear me?
No problem, no problem.
So, in order to scale up the system to produce, let's say, for colonization or so on
Mm.
Mars, could we take resources from Mars to build these this technology also? Like, is on Mars, yeah, can we mine Mars also at some point so we don't need to bring everything? Is that also part of the plan, or do we need to bring everything long term?
Well, it's not part of my plan. Maybe people from space agencies and SpaceX that are really thinking on colonization, they have it a bit more precise. So I'm focusing on my smaller problem. Um, but as a principle, yes, you can mine Mars, of course, and I don't know what you can produce from the technology in the sense of building new reactors there and so on. This looks to me difficult, and so I think we need to carry from Earth a lot. This question that we can use the carbon to create structures is also interesting, but again, it's not enough to scale up. So I think that on at least on the first stage, it's necessary to bring from Earth to scale. So the stupid scaling, but well, stupid in the sense very, no brain on it, but maybe in the end it's the way to go is just to replicate the machines. So if you have one machine that operates, you replicate and put more, and then you have more and more power, more and more output of whatever gasoline or any propellant or the oxygen or the fertilizers, and then you are a bit ready to go. I don't really see easily that we could have everything to produce the material. Well, all new reactors on Mars. Maybe I'm mistaken, but right now I don't see it. But mining Mars and using then other type of resources to do other things, so not to do this, but to do other things, that's for sure something that for a true colonization should be considered. Yeah. But yeah, again, I confess I have not made a colonization plan, how to build infrastructure there.
I think that's the first thing we think of. Like I'm
Yeah.
thinking of what else. Can we start cultivating plankton to assist with the oxygen production, for example?
Yeah.
I think it's like a mind explosion. What do we need and what can assist so that, in
Mm,
addition to scaling, you have other things producing.
yeah.
They have their requirements too.
No, on these things that I have just thought on the air, they can be very stupid. But things that I want to sit down for 10 minutes, and then maybe if they survive 10 minutes, then I sit down for a few hours, and then if they survive, I sit down for a few days. Would be to have a sort of a system of gas stations spread along the solar system, because many different planets have many different atmospheres and different gases that we can use. So we could try to devise, okay, on Mars we have CO2 that we decompose in this way and we produce these fuels, but other planets have what we miss on Mars, like the hydrogen, or they also have CO2, so we could use exactly the same on Mars as on another place, and so start spreading fuel stations a bit along the solar system. So on this that you are saying that, yeah, we start immediately thinking in things that are very far in the future. This is what I'd like to evaluate a little bit better. Maybe I conclude that it's pointless, but it's what a bit on my mind for further thought.
And then you mentioned that maybe the efficiency could be improved by using new nanomaterials. And
Mm,
you mentioned also three types of permeable membrane. So which type would be able to be improved by nanomaterials, and which ones would you use? If that's okay to ask, I don't know, maybe it's secret. I
No, it's fine. It's fine. Um, so the nanomaterials would be helping to enhance even more the CO2 dissociation. So in our system, so the plasma. So let me go back a little bit. So I describe this MOXIE system, yeah, where you put the energy in compressing, heating, and CO2 arrives at the membrane. But then, because it's compressed and it's heated, and you have these catalyzers on the surface, the molecule breaks on the surface. It's very energy expensive, but then it's transported to the other side. So in our plasma, we spend the energy in dissociating the plasma. So what arrives to the membrane is already dissociated carbon dioxide. So we have already oxygen arriving at the membrane, which is then transported. So that's the main difference. In the MOXIE system, CO2 arrives to the membrane, and then we need to spend the energy there to break it. In the plasma, we spend the energy before, and the oxygen arrives at the membrane. So we can still use these nanomaterials on the membrane to further decompose CO2 that arrives. So to play this role of the catalyzers of the MOXIE system. So it's possible to still increase the yield of oxygen on our membrane. Maybe necessary, maybe not. Probably not necessary, but maybe efficiency will be a bit higher. And then, yeah, as you said, there are different type of membranes. We believe right now, although different teams are exploring different possibilities, that we should use what is this solid oxide electrolysis cell, so similar to the MOXIE. So it's a membrane that works on a potential difference. So the other membrane that is realistic to use, it works on a partial pressure difference. So if you have more oxygen on one side of the membrane and less oxygen on the other side, the oxygen will diffuse from the high pressure side to the low pressure side. It looks okay if we say it like that, but the point is that you need to vacuum on the other side so that the permeation takes place efficiently. Maybe possible, but it seems that it will be more complicated. It will require more power, and more power means more weight, more kilograms, and everything will be a bit bigger and a bit heavier. So we are more keen for the moment on these membranes where we drive the flow of oxygen through this potential difference. Because what is transported, sorry if I enter too technical detail, but I will just say it. So what is transported is not the oxygen atom, it's an oxygen ion. So if you have a potential difference, you can drive it to the other side. So the oxygen atom, in this case, arrives at the membrane, then it needs to capture an electron that can be supplied by the plasma itself or by some current, and then we have the ion that is transported. In this way, you can transport oxygen even against the partial pressure because it's driven by the potential difference. And this is what we believe it's the better configuration because we need already a potential difference to ignite the plasma. So just to create the plasma, we need the power, and we need to have electrodes or whatever. Microwaves doesn't matter, the system, but we need to have already a potential difference to create the plasma. So why not to use the same to drive the ion transport along the membrane? So yes, different membranes can be used. We are exploring two main types of membranes, this that is just partial pressure, and another one that is driven by this potential difference. We believe the second is probably better, but we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Before I ask more questions, Victoria and Joyce, do you want to ask more some questions?
Please keep asking. This is really fun. That was terrifying, though. I just comment when you were talking about the differential of oxygen concentration, and I was just thinking you make all this lovely oxygen and then it diffuses.
Mm-hmm.
Scary. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, back to the question we had before we started, if we can one day use this on Earth, but you said you were actually using the characteristics of the Mars conditions, and
Mm.
that's why this works so well. But could we change it to adapt it here to Earth, and maybe one day, we are killing the ocean, and that's where most oxygen gets produced, and we are killing the ocean very quickly. Would that be a possibility? Maybe even, recreate ocean oxygen somehow.
Yeah. So this idea actually appears because we were working on a similar system. So trying to start from carbon dioxide, and instead of thinking carbon dioxide is a problem, maybe carbon dioxide is a resource that we can use to make something interesting on Earth. And then listening to a lecture by someone from NASA about Mars that was nothing related to oxygen production or whatever, I just realized, okay, but Mars is carbon dioxide, so maybe what we are studying on Earth could be used somehow to Mars. And then start thinking that, okay, finally Mars is really great for for plasma. But a long story to say that yes, we were actually already thinking on application on Earth. We continue to pursue the studies on Earth. It's not so much what we are thinking, but maybe it's possible also. It's not so much to regenerate the ocean at this moment. We are more thinking on making carbon dioxide loop as we have the water cycle that we learn in elementary school. So something like we peak carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, that is annoying us a lot. We use, of course, renewable energy to do our plasma thing, so to break the molecule, to separate the oxygen and so on. And then with electrolysis from water, we bring the hydrogen and we go for fuels and we burn it again to the atmosphere. So you see a cycle like the cycle of water. We could do a cycle for carbon dioxide that in the limit would be neutral, would be completely neutral. So of course it's not reducing the amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, but it's not increasing. And my point of view, it would have the advantage that we would still run our cars in gasoline, meaning we don't need a new infrastructure, we don't need a new transport system, we don't need a new technology. Okay, we need a technology to produce the gasoline. So fuels, liquid fuels, gasoline and variants are not bad by themselves. They are bad if they are produced from fossil. But if we produce it from CO2 in the air, then it's fine. And this is more or less the direction we are pursuing a bit. I don't believe in a magic solution, so one solution that solves all the problems, but I believe in several contributions, several ideas, several technologies that all together will help us. Yes, so we are trying to learn both ways, from Earth, what we can take advantage on Mars, but also from our research on Mars, what we can use to make life more sustainable on Earth as well. Mainly through this mechanism of recycling CO2, but it's also possible to think on directions in line of what you are suggesting, regenerating the oceans and so on. But yeah, it's all these are complex problems, of course, but we should face them. We should face them.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Um,
Would it, because renewable energies have a peak of generating electricity, so could it be some sort of battery system also? That we kind of, when we have a lot of renewable energy, more than we actually need, we would add that process to it and have some sort of, battery, like we funnel it into this, and when we don't have too much, like at night, then we can just turn it off and use it for other.
um, yeah, it could, but in principle, it would not be the way to go with this because these plasmas I mentioned very briefly when I was presenting that we don't have an issue with starting and stopping operation, so we can do it immediately. So if sun is shining or wind is blowing, we run our thing. If it's not, we shut down. This is not an issue. And the other thing is that if we use this scheme of recycling the CO2 to produce liquid fuels directly, so hydrocarbons, it's already stored, so we don't need to store in batteries. So we just make I don't know the English word. Okay, you have a barrel of gasoline. So a barrel
Yeah,
gasoline is
yeah,
good
that's
for that.
yeah, that's what I mean. That it
Ah,
represents
okay, so
a
that's it.
battery.
So that's it. Yeah.
Yeah,
So you store. You
exactly.
just keep storing. Yeah. You keep storing because a barrel of gasoline you can keep for years. The energy is there, and it's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot per cubic centimeter, so per
So
liter.
how heavy is
So,
it? Because ideally you would do it on top of a building, and then
mm,
whenever you don't have energy, you transfer the fuel down, and by that elevator, there's this engineer from Brazil who was here that
mm,
says we could store a lot of energy in high-rise buildings
mm.
by keeping, fuel or whatever on top, and then bring it down whenever we need electricity. So is it too heavy? Is it too big for having it on top of a building?
Yeah, well, it depends on how much and how fast you bring it down. But mainly, I think a scheme like this, you would not put it on the top of buildings. You just because another difficulty would be that does not exist on Mars would be the capture of the CO2. So to start the process, you need to capture CO2. Um, because okay, for our climate, we have too much CO2 in the atmosphere, but in percentage of the gases on the atmosphere is small. Otherwise, we would be in serious trouble for breathing already. Um, so the idea is to put some sort of plant or machine or device, whatever, uh, that would work along these lines, close to a source of CO2. So you'd go to a factory, to a cement plant, to whatever expels a lot of CO2, so that the capture process would be easier. Because if we need to separate the few molecules of CO2 that we have around us, then it will be very, 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 very inefficient. So we need to be closer to places where CO2 is more readily available. But it's not impossible to put it in the top of a building, but in principle, there would be no advantage or no big advantage on it.
Yeah, I see. That was.
But maybe you just haven't found the right differential. Like the elevator that you need to get from the top of the building down.
Mhm.
So
Could be
whereas
on top
there's
of a factory too, right?
But that's why it brings us back to this the plankton again, and they could be the plant, like literally the plant producing the CO2.
Mm,
Um, but I think there's much to be known about their complex life because they are, again, we were talking about the migrating of the plankton throughout the day and also throughout the year. So that's miles of ocean
mm,
that they require. Um, so something like a differential that's analogous. Oops, sorry, analogous to gravity, analogous to an elevator going up and down.
mm. Yes, yes. Um, no, I don't have too much more to say, except, okay, if you imagine how our society is organized now in terms of fuels. So this transportation of fuels, you can do it by boat or whatever, but you have all these pipelines, all these systems that transfer fuel from one side to the other. So similar things can be used because that's also the same comment. If we are using with the same material, so it's the fuel is the same. Everything that we know already regarding storage and transport can be used. It's only the source, the production that is different, and that's the main issue that we are not burning oil or gas or whatever. But as soon as you have the fuel produced, everything that is known already to transport from one place to the other. I'm making now the analogy of your plankton migrating a long distance. Uh, so I don't know exactly for the US, but I guess it should be similar to Europe. So this goes kilometers and kilometers on pipelines. So this I don't think it would be a major problem to produce in one place and then transport and make it available on other places.
Yeah, you probably can scale it better, right? If, the bigger you go, then it's more scalable and cheaper and more efficient, and you lose a little bit by transportation. But if we can use the same infrastructure, basically,
Yeah,
then
exactly. That's it. Yeah.
I think there would be less resistance to switch to this type of technology than making the whole industries basically switching to something completely new. So if you could achieve that, that would be really great because people could just keep doing what they're doing. That's what they want to do,
Yeah.
right? Nobody wants to change their life significantly. So that would be a huge achievement. So are you getting funding for the Earth type of project, or is it harder to get funding for or interest in, or is it right now really a great time because oil is so expensive and people like knocking down your doors to escape the oil price?
Yeah. No, we have some funding, but mostly from national projects. So we have not been successful in getting big money from European projects. Let's see. Yeah, of course, it seems I managed to make my propaganda, my advertising properly because you put it precisely as I see it, so that the infrastructure is there. So if we could do it, people would not have this resistance to change, and we would make an important step in this sustainability and having, well, treating a little bit better our planet. But my concern, or one of my concerns, is that this looks a bit far from the political speech. So I don't know if this is the first time you are speaking, listening about something along these lines, but it's very rare that we see on our politicians or journalists any reference to a scheme like this. So we listen electric cars, we listen hydrogen technology, but something like let's keep operating in the same way, just replacing fossils by the fossil source for the fuels by renewable. This it's very rare that I listen entering the political speech or even the media. That's where I'm not so optimistic. But yes, so we are for now having some funding from our national projects. We have, of course, the same strong network of collaborations abroad, but we are lacking, let's say, big money to 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 make it move faster.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's Europe. Like we had the guest speaker here. She has a company. She's the research director from a Chinese company, but they also operate here in the US,
Mm.
where they engineer microbes to ferment gas
Oh,
into fuel, and they actually fueled a plane, and they are scaling it up now. That did a transatlantic flight with the fuel. It was really great. It is really great work, and I think they got quite a lot of funding from China. And here, I'm not sure how the company is doing, but they want to collaborate. Also, similar idea to get to do this fermentation right at the source of factories and farms
mhm.
and so on. So I think that would be a really and it seems like it's not so far-fetched to do that. It's not like we shouldn't have solar panels, but they also have their problems, right? They generate a lot of um, trash that we cannot recycle really well, and everything has its problems, so we need a lot of different solutions and not just one thing. Although I like my electric car
Yes, yes.
because it's
No, it's
also
also part. It's also part. I agree with you. So we need many different things. We need to. What is good in one condition, we do it in that condition, and we need many different things.
Yeah, I mainly like the
But
electric car because it doesn't pollute. When I now smell like diesel or, you know, gas without the filter and stuff, it reminds me of childhood driving from Germany to Portugal 3 times a year and being sick and noxious. Like I just don't like the pollution in the city from the cars, but yeah. But in general, I think people are more open maybe to have like a smooth transition, not 100% transition.
Mm. No, and thanks for the comment. Yeah, that idea from the Chinese company looks quite interesting. In fact, yeah.
Yeah, I can share the recording, but also the paper with you. She presented here, Dr. Leah. I have it. I just have to find it. It was in the beginning when we started this club. It was really impressive the work she did for um, screening all the different microorganisms and then engineer them in a way that they do this process more efficiently. Like just from this work was really impressive. Was a lot of work. Sean shared the stage. I hope you have still a couple of minutes. um, Maybe Sean has the last question. I know it's Friday. You probably want to do something else than continue speaking with us.
He
So
he wants he wants to answer questions today, Saturday, and Sunday because he enjoys this, right?
We could actually make that happen if you liked.
Doctor, is it Guerra? Guerra? Is that your
Yes,
name?
yeah, yes.
Yeah. So I'm sorry. I've been preparing breakfast and I've been listening in the background. So the system that's currently on Mars on the rover, that's not one that your team designed. It's a different type of technology slightly. That's one question. And number two, your system that you were describing earlier, how many watts per liter of oxygen does it take, and how does that compare to the system that's currently on Mars?
Mhm.
And I think that should be good enough for Friday.
Yes, thanks. Yes, no, for sure. Well, I will be glad to discuss with you anytime you want, but not anytime because now it's 9 in the evening here, and I will go for my dinner. But answering now the direct questions. Um, so yes, it's not the same system as we have. So it's a different system. We try to compare for the same power that they use, what we can do. And okay, the numbers they give are usually measured in, so it's a 300 watt, so it's about 300 watt. So the numbers they give are usually given as grams of oxygen produced per hour. We can convert that in liters, but I have to do the calculation on the side, so I don't have the number at top of my head. But their number, what they produce, it's 5.5 grams of oxygen per hour. So our estimation that I think it's realistic is that we can have about a factor of 3 more, so like 15 grams of oxygen per hour, based on that we have twice that, we have 30 grams of oxygen per hour, but on the gas phase, so before we actually extract the oxygen. And then we will fail to separate everything, we will just extract half. And then we have this factor of 3. But if instead of extracting half, we extract only 20%, we would still be a little bit above the machine that is there, so MOXIE. So I think we can be pretty safe in estimating that we will have at least the same amount of oxygen per hour, production of oxygen per hour for the same 300 watt as MOXIE, maybe a bit better. And especially then is this question of weight. So we expect that we can then engineer and optimize our system to make it smaller and lighter than MOXIE. We will see, but that's an important aspect as well.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Great. Well, thank you so much for explaining things in a way that even I could understand and for spending the time here with us. You're always welcome back, as Sean already said. And yeah, enjoy the rest of your Friday, enjoy your dinner, and yeah, I hope we'll one day hear about, we will follow your research and maybe you come back and thanks again.
No, perfect. Thank you very much. Yeah, I will try to join from time to time your discussions. And yeah, thank you also for the invitation. It was a pleasure, really.
Yeah, that's
So
great to hear. We want, the guest speakers to have fun, as I lately say, we don't want to be parasites. So yeah.
Yeah, thanks so much for your talk and all your work. And thanks, Katerina and Victoria.
Yeah, and everyone, thank you for coming and interacting. If you like discussion like this, follow the club. Then you can look up the schedule. Not all of our rooms, but like I think the next 10 to 11 rooms are listed. So we'll have next week Dr. Hergenrother, who fights off over 300 drug-resistant bacteria with his new approach. Then we'll have Dr. Brujic talking about programmable self-assembly of emulsion droplets. It's basically very soft, very small robotics, kind of maybe in the future. and human-specific alleles protecting cognition. So it's basically a genetic predisposition to have good cognition throughout life, and how 1 hour in nature decreases amygdala activity, and how we know amygdala overactivity is correlated with anxiety disorders and so on. And on Friday we have Dr. Tarduno talking about the origin of inner core structure. Like he did some experiments and found some new theories. So I think it will be a pretty interesting week. And yeah, I hope I hear you all back soon. Enjoy your weekends, everyone. And bye.
Yeah, thank you so much. This was fantastic.
Yes.
We
Thank
learned a
you.
lot.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Okay, close the room in 3,
Bye.
2, 1. Bye, everyone. Thank you. Bye.